My name is Barbara. I'm a lead product manager for mobile apps at the Very Group. And I really just want to talk to you a little bit about our experience of building a festive calendar. So this talk is really for anyone who's ever had a feature thrown their way and you just thought, okay, but why? But it's also for those of you who ask for these features. And really, as product managers, we're all about bringing a bit of calm into the chaos. That's really what we do. We bring people together. And I really just want to talk to you about how we turned a festive feature into a smart product move. A little bit about the Very Group. Very has been around for over 100 years. We are an online retailer and a flexible payments provider. We've been adapting to our changing user needs ever since and keep doing so. We used to be a catalog business and now we're digital only. Our app users are our most loyal and our most engaged customers, and it's a growing base for us. However, we're not actually hugely investing into its infrastructure, meaning at the moment we've got a hybrid app which is mainly serving web views and a few of the screens are native. On top of this, we're also in the middle of a huge digital transformation, meaning we are migrating our tech stack onto a modern headless platform with commerce tools and ampliance. So you can already get a bit of a feel of there's a lot of constraints that we are finding ourselves in. The challenges that we are facing as an online retailer, I think, are very similar to those most of retailers are facing, especially as you're heading into Black Friday. For us, last summer, we started thinking about how can we make our app customers come back to us over Christmas period. We knew we were going to acquire a lot of new users over Black Friday, but we had no real differentiators to the web experience to keep them to come back, engage with us, and ultimately shop with us. We also knew we couldn't just throw in a big new feature because we were in the middle of a migration. We had the hybrid tech, and there was a pending code freeze where you're not allowed to introduce new code to your users. And also we had resource restrictions, meaning everyone's focus was on the migration. So that really meant that the challenge that we were facing quickly became how can we re-engage our users without adding any new infrastructure? And that is when the business came to me in the summer and they asked me, can we do an advent calendar in the app? Now, at first, that seems like a very simple and short and seasonal feature request. Makes sense. But as a product manager, I had to pause, take a bit of a step back and sort of reframe the question to really understand what we were asking. I then quickly realized there were a lot of big implications in this ask, and looking at the hybrid tech, the code freeze, how would we even do the offer logic or get our users to discover such a feature? Were really the questions that I started to ask myself and understand that there was a lot of big implications for doing something like this. So instead of saying yes or no, I took a bit of a beat and asked the question that most product managers are going to ask you when you come to them with a feature request, like, what problem are you trying to solve here? And that is really where that product mindset kicks in and where the magic happens. It's you take a business request, you put a product lens on it, you sprinkle in a bit of discovery, and then you really understand what you're trying to do before you even ship any code. And what I ended up doing is I ran a discovery-focused gamification workshop with the team where I gave them problem statements and not feature requests. And we tried to explore how might we reward our users for repeat visits over Black Friday and Christmas without adding new infrastructure. We explored gamification mechanics, retention strategies, and also utilizing our existing Ampliance integration for our CMS for making the most of it. It was a challenge of think outside the box, but acknowledge that there is a box, and I kept pushing the team to come up with ways that we can innovate within the constraints that we were living in. It wasn't so much about adding sparkle. It was about figuring out how can we add strategic value, how can we improve the customer experience, but also, is this even feasible for us? And that is really the flow for my thinking in this approach. We ended up building the advent calendar, and it was becoming a mini project in its own right within the giant migration we were finding ourselves in. We were thankfully able to run it self-sufficiently, meaning we didn't need any of the other tech teams to support us with. We kicked all of this off in July, and once we understood the business requirements, went into a bit of a discovery phase in August, because we wanted to make sure we understood the risks, the opportunities, and also what we were trying to achieve with this. By that point, we knew we wanted to do 12 days of Christmas, and we wanted to go live in the middle of December. We ended up doing the development in 3 stages. The first stage was just to stand up a working version of the calendar, just to get it built and see what else we need. Stage 2 was to refine the UI, which ultimately gave our UX team a bit more time to come up with the design, the user flows, and also working with the brand and creative teams to figure out what we need to deliver for our users. The last stage was refining the creative, so our QAs could actually test the go live version, which we were asking our creative teams at the end of September to come up with the Christmas creative. So just keep that in mind when all of their heads were working on Black Friday as well. Towards the beginning of September, I also created a task force with business stakeholders where we had regular catch-ups every week to check in on progress, but it was also where there were blocking issues to get decisions done quickly. We managed to release the functionality just before we went into our code freeze at the beginning of November, which gave our customers ample time to update their app version to the latest one so that they can utilize the feature in December when it went live. Now, what went live to our customers was fairly basic in design, but our approach was we wanted to ship fast and learn fast. Our customers were presented with a festive UI where offers were hidden behind doors. Everything was built natively, and we managed to make it accessible through the app home screen. On top of this, we also managed to include the brand sparkle animation we'd by that point recently launched, just to give a bit more flavor. Now, there were constraints, and it wasn't perfect, but we made an experience for our users that was fluid, it was smooth, and it worked for them. Most importantly, we were able to use the Advent calendar as an example to our business to show them the benefits of native and what a native app feels like. It's such a foreign concept to people who don't live and breathe the app world that showing them something that is smooth and seamless and it just performs and transitions smoothly was really a great way to show them this is what native feels like. Now, obviously, the next question you're going to ask, was it worth it? Well, we were really impressed with its performance, given that the campaign was running for 12 days. It was the first time we'd ever done such a campaign. It was obviously the first time we'd run the calendar. So from our side, we were pretty pleased with it. We drove 1.7 million in demand. We managed to acquire 14% new users, and we had 67,000 first-time visitors. Now, these numbers show that you can do something lean, you can do something smart. It doesn't need to be the big bang, and you can still add value. But these numbers weren't achieved because we built the feature. These numbers were achieved because our marketing and brand and trading teams were behind the feature, doing everything they can to get our users into the app. So we had really strong offers with our branded partners. We had really great marketing campaigns through push, email, just to get our customers in. And this is really to show that you can build the most amazing thing in the world. If your customers don't know about it, they're not going to use it. Now, if you call back to me saying we wanted to ship fast and learn fast, the reason we ended up doing the calendar was because we also wanted to do it because we knew we could, but we also wanted to hear from our customers. So we did qualitative and quantitative research whilst the calendar was running to hear from our customers what they thought of it. We learned that they loved the simplicity of it. They loved that the offers were easily accessible, it's easy to understand, and they also liked that we were telling them offers that they'd missed because that encouraged them to come back on consecutive days. There were also areas that we needed to improve. We learned it was a bit hard for them to find the calendar on the home screen. The offers weren't always relevant, And when we asked them, would you download an app if it had an advent calendar, only 1 in 6 said they would. So the takeaways for us for this really was we needed to make it more visible, we needed to make it more relevant, and we needed to make it repeat worthy. But we didn't just want to hear from our customers, we also wanted to hear from our internal teams, because this was the first time for us where we'd done such a big cross-collaboration within the teams and see how they felt about it, because we wanted to improve our ways of working as well. Towards the start, what really stood out was the strong cross-team collaboration that was happening from the get-go, and the regular check-ins we had, the task force meetings were huge wins to get us unblocked and keep us moving towards our deadline in November. Towards the middle, there were a couple of hiccups around content and creative. However, we were asking our creative teams in September to come up with the Christmas creative. So you always need to be a bit realistic of what you're asking people to do. However, at the end, we delivered a standout native feature. Yes, we missed a few polished moments, but the team was really proud of what they'd achieved, and we learned an incredibly amount from this. What's next? Of course, you're going to ask yourself, how are you going to use this? Well, our customers during the research were already calling out other seasonal moments they thought might be relevant for such a functionality, and naturally, our business is already thinking about this as well. We've actually done a second iteration of this just for Easter. So if you've been on the Very app over the last couple of weeks, you may have seen it. We've done the Easter calendar. We've only made small tweaks to it for this iteration because we wanted to understand how this performs outside of Christmas. An advent calendar makes a lot of sense at Christmas, but what does that mean at Easter? So we made some small tweaks taken from the learnings from our research, from our data, the offer strategy, and also the mechanisms behind getting the customers into the app. We've run the Easter calendar. We've done a bit more user research on it as well, because again, it's understanding how customers react to it, and ultimately this becomes the goldmine for our next iterations. The goal for us really is to create something that is flexible and repeatable and allows our business teams to utilize this self-serving to run these campaigns. However, we need to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing to do for our users as well as for our business. And just some final thoughts from me. I know we're all appreciative of the app industry. Everyone loves to make the appy magic happen. I think as a product manager and also having been in the app industry for 8 years, it is really important sometimes to just take a step back and calm down. There's like 1,000,001 things happening at any given moment, feature requests being thrown your way, new campaigns going live, but sometimes it's just take a step back, calm down, reframe the ask, and it's all going to be fine. If you are doing features like this, I would also encourage you to align with your teams early and iterate fast. Because ultimately, if you're trying to chase for the perfect feature, you're going to stop yourself from doing the possible, and you're never going to learn quickly. If you're chasing and chasing to get it right, you could miss out on learning how it's performing for you, or you might not even know that it's not performing for you because it's just taking you a while to get there. Now, whether you're in a big tech migration or there's other constraints within your company that are seemingly holding you back, I would really encourage you to just get creative and think outside the box, but acknowledge the box, because there's always ways that you can add value and drive change, even when everything seemingly tells you that you can't. As product managers, but I think as anyone working with other people, it's really about getting people together and getting that cross-functional collaboration going, because that's really when the really exciting things happen. It's bringing people together to get stuff done. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. If you've got questions or feedback, find me off stage. Thank you.